Hey guys, I got John Phillips here. John Phillips, just so you guys know, his family has fought and served in every war since 1753, even before we were in a country. John actually comes to us from Atlanta, Georgia, and he's been around the block once or twice himself. Spent 20 years in the Army and artillery as a Mustang officer. And for those of you who don't know what a Mustang officer is, he was enlisted and then became an officer through the. I have such respect for guys who are Mustang officers. I didn't get a chance to be a Mustang officer myself, but I find that a lot of my best friends and guys I respected the most were Mustang officers. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for your service, John, and what you've done.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. You've taken that a step further. So you were at fifth. You were set up inside of the corporation of Coca-Cola. You were in charge of setting up what's now grown way past that. I mean, you set up a internal organization that's around the Marine Corps, around the veterans inside of Coca-Cola, and now that's actually spilled over into now called Vetlanta. You know, so after doing that for 15, going on 18 years now at Coca-Cola, it's grown over 150 companies. You have companies like Delta, Coca-Cola, Georgia Tech, several universities out there, SunTrust Bank, UPS, McKissick, on down the line. And I just want to say, congratulations for what you started there and brought together and have done, both without political stuff and without money and funding to be able to organize so many veterans out there and so many companies to do all one thing, which is at the end of the day, help veterans who are in the place to, get jobs and even on the entrepreneurship side of things. So I wanted to kind of bring you a little bit about how you did that and your story behind, your passion for going out and doing that.
Well, it all started back when I retired from the Army. And the story of how it all kind of started is one day I was sitting in my office and it was November 11th, 1999. So think back where you were then. And they were having the Veterans Day Parade coming through Atlanta, Georgia. So I left my office and I walked down and I watched the Veterans Day Parade. And I noticed one important thing. There was no presence of the Coca-Cola Company, who had at that time had a relationship with the armed forces for 60-something years back then. So I went back and put together a PowerPoint presentation of about 5 or 6 slides and then tried to get through to someone in the leadership chain of Coca-Cola. Took me 3 months to get through to somebody. And I got in, I did a little desk side briefing, and literally within 5 minutes, this VP stopped me from the briefing, and he said, "You've just reminded me where we came from as a company because our relationship with the military." And he says, "You got $100,000 to do a Veterans Day program at Coca-Cola." And I did it for 17 years. Same thing. So we had this organization, and then about 3.5 years ago, we started the Veterans Business Resource Group at Coca-Cola, and we decided I knew what we were doing at Coca-Cola, but I didn't realize what we were doing across Atlanta with all these other companies. So we reached out to about 15 other major companies in Atlanta and had a meeting at Coke to find out from these other companies like UPS, Delta, AT&T, the Southern Company, Home Depot, McKesson, McKinsey, Google, GE.
Just a couple of small companies.
Look, yeah, these little, you may have heard of them. And they came in and they each had about 10 minutes to brief on what they were doing with the military and for veterans. And we can't come to find out we were all kind of doing the same types of things. But the other important thing that came out of that is we all met each other because we didn't know each other. So all of a sudden we created this massive network of veterans that are working for these major power hitter companies. We then decided to have another meeting to talk about other things, maybe what we could do collectively, because my thought process was, we're doing all these things individually. Can you imagine what we would do if we pulled together as a team? It becomes very powerful at that point.
Absolutely.
I had no clue it was going to turn into what it has turned in so far. I couldn't even have dreamed this. And kind of my joke is we started, having pizza and beer back in those days with about 15 or 20 companies. And we've turned into having open bar and shrimp served to us.
Nice.
Today. It's really kind of wild. So what we've evolved into some 3.5 years later is this last summit that we had, which was sponsored by McKesson. We had about 300 people there, and we had representation from over 140 different companies, both for-profit, not-for-profit, and by company, I'll even say colleges and universities and things like that. So it was kind of incredible. And not only that, we had 3 veterans that came to that meeting. There are a number of them that come, but we had 3 veterans that came to that meeting and actually got hired on the spot, which is, you don't hear about stuff like that. That doesn't normally happen. So we're moving on. We have our next summit scheduled for the 2nd of May here in Atlanta at the Coca-Cola Company. And I'd say what I would tell your audience is if they want to learn more about who Vetlanta is to go to www.vetlanta.org and read about us. The 2 important things that you'd brought up earlier that we really exist, well, 3 really. One is we take no money. We don't want anybody's money. We don't want to have our hands on anybody's money. We also are apolitical, and we all strive to do one important thing, and that's help veterans. We want to make Atlanta the destination for veterans to come to live and to work and to be productive and to grow outside of their, what I call their second life outside the gate, which is out of uniform and in, it's boots to loafers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, John, how did you get started, doing this back in the day? I mean, because, one of the things about it is a lot of people have ideas, but you took action, Who gave you the right to turn around and create this Vetlanta program, or who gave you like, hey, John's going to be the guy, what's the difference maker out there that you incorporated into creating what you have now? It's grown to over 150 companies, and you have events where 300 people will fly in, to come see, and you have the mayor of the city is wanting to talk to you.
Yeah, we're going to see the mayor in a couple of weeks. We've met with the previous secretary of the VA, Bob McDonald, at his request. It kind of blew us away. Get this call out of the blue, and he says, "I want to meet you guys." We've had the undersecretary of the Army come to our meetings, and really, I mean, I didn't have anybody pushing me to do this stuff. I've been described as being a very strange I was a finance director at Coca-Cola. I'm a very strange finance person because I actually have a functioning right brain. I can imagine a lot of things. I'm a visionary type of a person. I'm more of a strategic thinker. And I think about a lot of these different things that are possible on what you can do. I always say, why not ask? Sometimes not even ask, you just do. And it's the old get permission later type of thing, or forgiveness later. But I have a curiosity, and I have a personal drive to help those that are coming behind me, because when I retired from the Army, I didn't have any of these resources that are available today. Like I said, we had talked about earlier, we barely had the internet at that time. So all of the resources that are available today to those that are transitioning out of the military, I mean, it's incredible what you almost have information overload with so many resources that are available. So I guess I'm just kind of one of those people is I don't talk about doing a lot of these things. I do it. Mm-hmm. And then I gather people around me.
Tell them about what GSD means, John.
Used to get shit done. I mean, you got to have a high quotient in that. There's actually a particular mathematical equation. But it's talk's cheap. You got to do things. And I just happen to be around a bunch of people that have the same kind of mindset, and we have put our heads together. I mean, one of the ways that we vet people in Vetlanta is, okay, my dog just woke up, is we have 7 a.m. meetings at the local Original Pancake House in Alpharetta, Georgia. So some of these companies that want to meet with us, they got to be there at 7 a.m. and get ready to have pancakes and crispy bacon and some coffee. Mm-hmm. And we've actually had some that say, well, can't we do lunch because that's awfully early? And we're like, no, it's 7 a.m. You need to be there. And we're usually there early. So it's been, it has not been a pain doing this thing, even though it's all voluntary. There's no money exchanging. No one's getting any kind of financial gain out of this thing. But it's been kind of incredible how the whole initiative has grown into what it is today. My relationship on the Boots to Loafer side with Georgia Tech, in Georgia Tech using my book as their textbook for their transition program, all started from Vetlanta. It not only turned into them using Connected and did a video transition program called VET Squared 101 that can be seen by any soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine around the world, no matter where you're at, over the internet.
It's awesome.
If you happen to be an active duty soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine in Georgia, you can take the course for free. It's paid for by a grant from the Department of Labor that Georgia Tech got. So free. I mean, and they all get a download of my book as part of the program.
Free.
I like free.
Free's good.
Apparently a lot of other people like free too.
Well, tell me a little more about you're also a selling author for your book. Tell us a little bit about the book itself and how people can learn more about that. If they're wanting to hire possibly some military veterans out there, what's something that makes a military veteran different from somebody coming out of a university or coming out of school or got out in the workplace?
Well, I think it's interesting because I've actually heard senior executives really talk about this in some of the meetings I've been in. One of the biggest things that they value with a veteran is the fact that you're seasoned. You're not a person that is coming straight out of college at 22 years old or 23 years old that has had your life experience has been college. That's it. So you're getting somebody that has maybe had that life experience, but they've also been deployed. They've been put into situations where they're actually in charge. And even in today's military, the level of responsibility has gone down the chain of command, I believe, from the days that I was in. So you may have young NCOs, young officers that are put into situations where they are the man or the woman in charge in making decisions with tribal chiefs, with communities, with whatever, to really do things that are out of their schoolhouse. I mean, they be, like in your case, you may be an infantry officer, but you're dealing with a local elder and trying to make sure they get the electricity going or they get their water or what. I mean, I don't recall them training that in any kind of basic course.
No, we didn't have that at a platoon leaders course.
Yeah, it just didn't happen. So, but you know what? It's like we had talked about. You figure it out and you make it happen. So you bring those types of life experiences to a company on top of just who you are, and it's invaluable. You're an asset. Any CEO out there would kill to have a veteran, I think, because of those life experiences. When you look at cultural differences between what we have here in the United States versus overseas, to me, that's an asset. When you can place somebody in a culturally different location and they can deal with it. They don't freak out because, the stores close at 5 o'clock. They're like, oh, that's kind of normal here.
And we'll talk about some of the success principles you've taken away from the military and your history and your family's history. I mean, it's amazing. You're talking about your dad served in, World War II there and some of his experiences. And you have relatives that go all the way back to 1753 before the country even was created.
Oh, yeah. Running around the back countries of South Carolina.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got quite a history there when it comes to being a warrior. So what are some of the lessons you've taken away from the battlefield that you've instituted in the boardroom?
I mean, the biggest thing is persistence, I think. And really, you can kind of sniff out the BS a little bit. I've been burned a few times, I'm learning as I go in this entrepreneurial world. And, but I will tell you that the 17 years I was with the Coca-Cola company, I found out after the fact that I learned a lot more than I thought I did, because I'm very comfortable meeting with senior executives in corporations, because I know who they are. I know what motivates them. I know where they come from. And I know how you can sit down and talk with them and convince them to do things, especially when it comes to veterans in the hiring space, with, creating that environment where they can come in and have jobs for vets.
What are some of the things that motivate some of those senior corporate executives? Let's say I'm a small business owner and I'm wanting to take my product or service over to one of these larger corporations that out there that needs my services. Maybe they need to subcontract down to do some work or something like that. What are some of the things they look at when they're looking at some of the small businesses?
I personally think that I'll back up on that one a little bit. I think one of the issues that I see in and around Atlanta is when it comes to a veteran-owned business, a lot of these companies, and I actually had this conversation with with Syracuse, actually, through their entrepreneurial program. Mm-hmm. One of the issues that we have right now is the fact that the federal government recognizes minority and women-owned businesses. They actually require companies to track that information. Projects that I've worked on while I was at Coca-Cola, we actually required a certain percentage of spend would be to MWBE organizations. The problem we have right now is we don't have that for veteran-owned businesses. Mm-hmm. There is not a true certification process other than what the VA has right now, where you can indicate that I'm a veteran-owned business or a special disabled veteran-owned business. And that a company and I'll use Coke as an example, a company of that scale that could hire a company that is a veteran-owned business that can provide the services or the goods to the system, the Coke system. So when you look at the Coke company, when you look at their system, it's global. So the problem you run into is you can't keep up with the scale that you've got to supply stuff. So that's a whole nother issue. But it's also getting these veteran companies on the radar, to have them considered to, let's say you want to renegotiate your security contract for your headquarters. Mm-hmm. It could be a veteran-owned business that could do that, but it'd be a local thing. The thing is one of the problems you have is how do you get in the door? And that's where we try and help through Vetlanta, because Vetlanta represents, we are veterans. We work in these companies and we can help open the door. We have access to the decision makers, where normally some company that's just trying to break into UPS or break into the Home Depot or something like that, you don't know who to talk to. You go to the BRG, you go to the Veterans Group. Who do you talk to? Oh, that's Joe Snuffy. I'll get a hold of him and I'll get you guys connected. That's one of the things we do really, really well in Vetlanta. We're collaborators.
Okay, so it's a good place for guys who are wanting to break into some of these companies. They can link up with you and link up with the Vetlanta group that you've created there. And you were sharing with me you're working with the Hire Heroes over there and helping out on the employment side of things a little bit.
Hire Heroes USA, yeah, they're part of Vetlanta, and as a matter of fact, a young lady that works for them, Holly Best, she actually heads up our employment pillar as part of the 6 pillars of Vetlanta. Mm-hmm. She's incredible. She's just a machine. Mm-hmm. And she's not even a vet. Her family were all in the military, but she's not even a vet.
Yeah.
She's got this personal internal drive to get things done. Her GSD factor is very high.
GSD is really high.
Really high.
Oh man, that's cool. And it was kind of funny because we were talking earlier. You were sharing with me the story about when you met Brian Stan and how that kind of went down. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I like Brian a lot, and he is It's funny because he admits this. He admitted this in a open forum that he says he thought he was a great football player until he got to Annapolis, and then he found out that I think he had his butt handed to him a couple times. Which, hey, it's Division I. I mean, hello,
Yeah,
you got some big boys there.
so I mean, and you play on a business scale as well. Like you're playing with the big boys and with the companies you're dealing with. So if you're talking to the executives from Delta, or you're talking to the executives from Coca-Cola now, or McKissick, and a lot of the UPS, and these large employers that are out there, what are some of the things that it's driving them internally to work with like corporations or work with other companies? I mean, where have you seen the drivers as far as them with connecting with, if I'm a small business owner and I'm wanting to get on that stage with them to be a part of that, like what are some of the things they're looking for within some of the younger companies? Some things they're not going to tell you right off the bat, It's
interesting because in those companies, I could name probably 4 or 5 companies like UPS, Coca-Cola, Home Depot, SunTrust, Southern Company. Those companies, there's even more. AT&T. AT&T's Veterans Business Resource Group has been around for decades. They're actually a nonprofit. So they're handling money. So all of these companies all have very active, visible veteran groups embedded inside their companies. And in order for those organizations to be successful, the leadership of those companies have got to support it. So UPS, for example, has had a number of functions, meetings where the CEO of the company has actually been there. So last 2016, our Q3 Vetlanta Summit, when we had the Undersecretary of the Army come, trust me, the CEO of UPS, it was at UPS headquarters, the CEO of UPS was there, plus his executive leadership team was there. And we had a formal sit-down meeting. And here, I mean, all of a sudden, the light bulb comes on, and they go, these guys are serious. This is big stuff. And that's why everybody scratches their head about the organization. They go, how are you doing this and you have no money? Well, it's what we do is we show that we can bring all of these organizations together to have them meet each other. And I've seen this happen time and time again, where you have these companies that meet each other. They have no idea each other even exists. But when they start coming together, they start talking about what can we do to make things happen. I'm team red, white, and blue, and here's team river runners. All of a sudden they team up and they start doing events together. And then you pull in Team Rubicon, and then you pull in Mission Continues. These are big companies. These are big nonprofits out there that get big money. And all of a sudden they start coming together and they start pulling together these different types of events together, and things start happening. And these companies see that, and that's where they get their funding from, a lot of these foundations. So this next summit that we have on the 2nd of May at the Coca-Cola Company, our emphasis is twofold. One is it's nonprofits. So we'll set up probably 20 tables of nonprofit organizations, and we're inviting 5 different major foundations that are here in Atlanta for them to get up and explain to all of these companies and all these nonprofits, this is how you send out your application to get funding from us. That's big stuff, man.
That's big stuff. So they're going to say, hey, here's the keys to the castle.
Exactly. And all of that is only happening for one reason, because Vetlanta is pulling it together. Yeah. We don't have the only skin in the game we got is we're putting it together, and we've got the Coca-Cola Company that is going to sponsor the whole thing. This is probably going to cost them because we're looking at having 400 people this time. I kind of challenged the Coke people and said, I want 500.
Yeah.
And their head exploded at that point. So I compromised on 400.
It went out the top.
Well, the security people went nuts because you got to pay overtime to all the security folks. And I'm like, well, guess what? All our security people are all vets. Yeah. The guy that runs them is a retired first sergeant. I know the guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so we'll compromise on 400. So we're going to have this massive meeting at Coca-Cola, and we're going to talk about these things. So this is right. You're right. It's going to say, okay, hey, we got the Coca-Cola Foundation. And these are the types of things that we look at, and you're going to have all these, trust me, you're going to have all these nonprofits out there. They're going to be taking notes.
Yeah. So anybody's a nonprofit out there wanting to get funding for their project and stuff like that, Coca-Cola is going to sit there and tell them exactly what they need to do.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at Coca-Cola, the Marcus Foundation, I think UPS. No, we're not doing UPS. So we're doing, and there's 3 others. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. We're going to post them out on our website.
Okay, great.
And then in order to go to the summits, you've got to go to our website or our LinkedIn group. Come out and join our LinkedIn group. Okay. We also have a Facebook account as well. We'll announce it all through social media. I think we even have a Twitter and everything. And we go through Eventbrite because we need to get, because we have our meetings at corporations, we have to have accountability of who's coming in. Got it. For security purposes, because sure. I don't know if you tried to get into Coca-Cola lately, but it's easier to get into Pentagon than it is Coke.
Wow. I
mean, it's like Fort Knox.
Yeah. Corporate espionage and all that kind of stuff happens.
Oh yeah.
That's a real business.
So I would encourage folks to, if you're inbound to Atlanta,
to really get inside of the Coca-Cola Corporation and like, hey, here's the inside. This is what it looks like.
Plus, just coming to the company. If you've never been to the corporation, the headquarters, it'll blow you away. Marble floors. I mean, it's like you walk in. I remember the first day I walked into that company because I literally left the Army on a Friday, retired on a Friday, and started at Coke on a Monday. So I'm in BDUs and jungle boots on a Friday, and on Monday I'm in a suit and loafers. And my feet were killing me because my boots were very comfortable. And I'm wearing these loafers, and my feet were just throbbing. And I remember walking into this company, and I was like, "Holy crap! Where have I been all my life?" It was amazing.
Yeah. So if companies are wanting to get sponsorships and stuff like that, that would be a great opportunity for them to get in front of you guys. And you said that's May 2nd down in Atlanta.
May 2nd, Atlanta, Coke headquarters. There's a second meeting that we're going to have. United, we didn't talk about this earlier, but it's on the 18th of May.
Okay.
It's going to be at UPS headquarters, and it's going to be a military transition symposium.
Okay.
And we're going to have anywhere between, I'd say, 10 to 15 tables. It's not a job fair. I hate job fairs. They're a waste of time. What this is we're going to have anywhere between 10 and 15 tables set up. And this is going to be a Vetlanta, UPS, and American Corporate Partners function. Okay. We're going to have vets coming in, and we're going to have each of these tables are going to be where we're going to have like subject matter experts. So we're going to have like a resume table, an interview table, a dress for success table, of this table, that table. The young lady, Holly Best from Hire As USA, she's heading that whole thing up. Cool. So we actually traveled down to Fort Benning about 3 weeks ago to meet down there with the commander down there. And we've invited the commanding general of Fort Benning to come up to Atlanta to be our keynote speaker. And oh, by the way, load up a busload of your transitioning troops, either from the Ranger Regiment or even just from, Fort Benning in general, and bring them up to Atlanta and have them participate. And they better be dressed and ready to go. They better have their resumes ready, because it's all about networking. Yeah. Networking's where you're going to get your next job, not posting jobs on the internet and all this other crap. You got to meet people. So they're going to go to this function and get to meet people, but also get to learn and refine their skills. But it's the meeting people that's the important part, because we're trying to pull in HR and talent acquisition folks to really participate in this whole function that we're going to have on the 18th of May at UPS. So I'll email you the fact sheet that I put together. Okay. Yeah, I'll post it. And we're still trying to gather. We're trying to put meat on the bone at this point, but we're in the planning stages at this juncture. But it's fully going to be sponsored by UPS.
And you guys have one of the pillars you have on the website is about entrepreneurship, and said the gentleman's name was Michael.
Yeah. Michael Hare, he's actually president of Shark USA for the Southeast region, and he heads up the business pillar. We have 6 pillars, and his focus is entrepreneur. So Syracuse actually just had a function here a couple of weeks ago at the Georgia Aquarium.
Okay.
I think they had partnered with the Marcus Foundation, and it was all around entrepreneurial.
Marcus Foundation.
Say again?
The Marcus Foundation. You mentioned that.
So Bernie Marcus was a co-founder of Home Depot. Arthur Blank, who owns the Atlanta Falcons, was the other founder of Home Depot. Mm-hmm. So they're worth a little bit of money.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So Bernie Marcus, so there's a massive aquarium here in Atlanta. So Bernie Marcus, that's his aquarium.
It's his little fish pond.
Little fish pond.
Little tank in their house. He's got an aquarium.
That's it. They actually have a program. So there's a guy that runs their veterans program. He's a Special Forces Reserve captain. And they have a few programs where they'll do like an immersion, what do they call it? Basically, you put on scuba gear and you go swim with the fishes.
That's so cool.
For vets. And they do a lot of different programs. So the Marcus Foundation, they do a lot with Shepherd Center and the SHARE program that deals with veterans with TBI, PTS, and any other kind of issues or things like that. It's actually a separate program. And he does a lot of things. The beauty about what Bernie Marcus does, he does a lot of things that are under the radar. A lot of people don't know about it. And he doesn't care. He doesn't do it for the publicity. He does it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
On the flip side, Arthur Blank and the foundation he has, I'm actually going to a function this evening with them. They do some things with Outward Bound, based out of Colorado, and another organization that does equestrian type of therapy for veterans as well. Again, all under the radar. They don't advertise this stuff, but they do it because it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of those types of things that happen in and around the Atlanta area. And what we do in Vetlanta is we try and bring all that stuff together.
That's super exciting.
We're collaborators, man.
Collaborators. That's awesome. Well, John, I appreciate you coming out today and sharing some of that. And where's the best place for people to get more information? It's just go to vetlanta.com.
Vetlanta.org. And then on the Boots to Loafer side, if you want help with your transition, I mean, absolutely. I can tell you probably one of the biggest things that impacts me is when I get some email out of the blue, and this has happened a lot lately, from either a spouse or a transitioning service member that has taken my book and used it and kind of used the process that I outlined. Boots to Loafers.
Boots to Loafers is the name of the book.
Yeah, Boots to Loafers, Finding Your New True North. So it's really, you're transitioning out of a world that you're very comfortable with, and all of a sudden you're finding yourself into a situation that you're not really familiar with. I mean, there is a major difference between the military and corporate America. They're all big entities, and they all have politics. Yeah. And they all have their bureaucrats. But I always tell the transitioning folks, use what you were trained to do. As it doesn't matter what you did, whether you're ordnance, whether you were transportation, infantry, artillery, it doesn't matter. You were all trained to observe. So sit back and use those skills to learn how people walk, talk, dress, act, communicate, the culture, everything. All of those things you probably used when you deployed. That's how you survive. Use those when you get into a corporate setting, because that's how you're going to survive. And then start to grow your network and reach out to people that are in the finance world, the management world, the operations, sales, supply chain, and get to meet people that are in those different skill sets and learn from them, because you're in a learning mode because you don't know that stuff. You've got to learn that type of stuff and then start to grow a whole new who you are. And that's where I talk about, my book is broken into 3 sections: transition, transformation, and integration. That's the whole transformation side. And I talk about a lot of, you can't come across as a knuckle-dragging Neanderthal. Because guess what? You will not get hired. You have got to transform who you are. It's not to say you abandon who you are, because I always say I'm a soldier. I've been a soldier my whole life. I will always be a soldier. But I can also change on who I am when I get into a corporate setting. I have to. in order to survive. And I survived. So you have to be able to do that. And I tell folks, take all those awards and decorations, and I'll even take my little camera here, and you do one of these, you put them in a nice little shadow box, and you hang it on the wall and forget about it, because no one knows what that means. It'll come up at some point, but no one knows the meaning. Your mission when you get your job is to learn what you need to be able to do to survive, learn your job, and be the best you can possibly be at whatever you're doing in that job, just like you did in the military. There's no difference there. And you will amaze people at what you can do. Absolutely will amaze them.
Absolutely. Well, John, again, thanks for having me out. And you guys want to find John and learn more about the corporations and who they're working with, you can go to vetlanta.org, and we'll make sure we post.
And bootstoloffers.com.
And bootstoloffers.com. We'll make sure we post that information under the video online.
Hoorah.
Hoorah.